prophets believed it sleeps still, far below where light cannot reach, waiting for the appointed hour when the surface breaks and chaos returns to test creation once more. Because in the end, Leviathan isn't just a story about the sea. It's a warning about the limits of man, the serpent across civilizations Lotan and Tiamat, and the war against chaos. The story of Leviathan does not belong to one people or one faith. It is older, deeper, and far more universal than most realize. Long before the Hebrews carved their scriptures, other civilizations were already writing of a serpent in the sea, a monster that coiled through the waters and had to be slain by a god of order. What's chilling is how nearly identical these stories are, despite emerging from cultures separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of years. This recurring myth, the eternal struggle between chaos and order, is known by scholars as the chaoskampf, the battle with chaos. It's one of the oldest narrative patterns in human history, and Leviathan sits at its center. The earliest known version appears in ancient Ugarit, a Bronze Age port city on the Syrian coast, thriving around 1400 BCE. Archaeologists unearthed its texts on clay tablets written in cuneiform, and within those lines we meet Lotan, a seven-headed sea serpent, servant of the ocean god Yam. Lotan was enormous, coiled, and powerful enough to threaten the heavens themselves. Yam, his master, was chaos incarnate, the restless sea that sought to overthrow the divine order. When the gods cried for help, a hero emerged: Baal, the storm god. Armed with thunder, wind, and lightning, Baal confronted Yam and Lotan in a battle that shook creation. The texts describe how he struck the serpent down, splitting its body and casting its remains into the abyss. In triumph, Baal declared his reign as king of the gods, a victory of structure over the sea's infinite disorder. If that sounds familiar, it should. The phrases in those Ugaritic texts, twisting serpent, fleeing serpent, the dragon of the deep, are identical to the Hebrew descriptions of Leviathan in Isaiah 27:1. The linguistic overlap is undeniable. Scholars believe the ancient Israelites knew these Canaanite stories intimately. When they wrote of Leviathan, they weren't inventing a new monster. They were reframing an old one through the lens of their own theology. But the pattern doesn't stop in Syria. Travel further east, into Mesopotamia, and the same story unfolds again, this time on a cosmic scale. In the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, the primordial goddess Tiamat rises from the endless ocean. She isn't simply a sea creature, she is the ocean, the embodiment of chaos itself. From her salty depths come the first gods, but when they rebel and disturb her peace, Tiamat's wrath is boundless. She creates an army of monsters, serpents, dragons, and scorpion men, and declares war on her own children. To stop her, the younger gods choose a champion: Marduk, the storm god of Babylon. He prepares for battle with a bow, net, and the four winds. The tablets describe the clash with haunting imagery: the sea boiling, the heavens shaking, and the winds tearing at Tiamat's vast, scaled body. When Marduk finally strikes her, he splits her corpse in two. One half becomes the sky, the other the earth. From the death of chaos, the world is born. Sound familiar again? It's the same structure we saw with Baal and Lotan, and the same structure echoed later in the Hebrew Psalms. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert. What we're seeing is not coincidence. It's a lineage. A myth passed down through generations, reshaped with each retelling, but always preserving the same heartbeat. A god of order defeating a serpent of chaos. Now turn south to Egypt, and the pattern resurfaces under a new name: Apophis, or Apep. Every night, as the sun god Ra sailed his solar barkie through the underworld, Apophis, a colossal serpent of shadow, rose from the abyss to devour the sun and end the cycle of life. Each dawn was proof that Ra had triumphed again, and every night the battle would begin anew. To the Egyptians this wasn't metaphor, it was cosmology. Priests enacted daily rituals to help Ra win. They made wax effigies of Apophis, stabbed them, burned them, and recited spells to bind the serpent. It was believed that if these rituals failed, Apophis would succeed and the world would be swallowed by darkness forever. And still, this idea wasn't limited to the Middle East. Travel north to the icy fjords of Scandinavia, and we find Jörmungandr, the world serpent of Norse mythology. Another incarnation of the same archetype. Jörmungandr is the child of the trickster god Loki and a giantess, cast into the ocean by Odin, where it grew so massive it encircled the entire world, biting its own tail. It lies in the deep, waiting for the day of Ragnarok, the end of all things, when it will rise from the sea and poison the sky. Its nemesis is Thor, the thunder god. Their battle is fated. Thor will slay Jörmungandr with his hammer, but after taking 9 steps, he will fall dead from the serpent's venom. Once again the same story. A sea serpent that embodies chaos, a god of thunder and lightning who brings order. Both destroy each other, restoring balance through death. And in the east, far beyond Europe's horizon, the same image coils again. In the Vedic hymns of India, the storm god Indra slays the dragon Vritra, who hoards the world's waters. Indra strikes him with thunderbolts, releasing the rivers and restoring fertility to the land. It's the same language, the same moral geometry. The serpent blocks life, and the storm god frees it. Across time and geography, from the sands of Egypt to the snows of Norway, the pattern never changes. Chaos is a serpent, order is a storm. Creation itself is born from their collision. So what does this mean? How could such distant cultures, separated by oceans, mountains, and millennia, tell the same story? The academic answer is that myths evolve from shared human psychology. The ocean represents the unknown, the uncontrollable, the eternal threat to civilization. The serpent, with its twisting, coiling body, becomes the perfect symbol of that fear, a shape that moves unpredictably, both mesmerizing and deadly. The storm, meanwhile, symbolizes the human need for control, the power of leadership, kingship, and divine order. The chaoskampf, they say, is just humanity projecting its struggle to impose meaning on a chaotic world. But not everyone agrees. Some researchers, and even a few scientists, suggest something bolder, that these stories might not be coincidences of imagination, but memories of something real. What if, they ask, the ancients didn't invent these serpents? What if they saw them? The fossil record gives weight to the possibility. Massive marine predators once ruled the seas. Creatures so large that their shadows could have inspired entire religions. The pliosaurs, the mosasaurs, the megalodons, beasts that could grow longer than a bus, their jaws powerful enough to crush bone in seconds. Imagine an ancient seafarer glimpsing a carcass the size of a ship floating in the surf, jaws open, ribs protruding, scales glistening in the sun. To people without the language of science, that wasn't a dead reptile. That was the corpse of the world serpent. And if that image traveled through generations, carved into myth, retold through priest and prophet, Leviathan becomes not a metaphor, but a memory fossilized in religion. Because whether you call it Lotan, Tiamat, Apophis, or Leviathan, the message remains the same: the sea is never empty. It holds what creation has forgotten. Each civilization added its own warning. For the Babylonians, it was the danger of rebellion against divine order. For the Egyptians, it was the certainty that darkness returns every night. For the Hebrews, it was the proof that only God can master chaos. And for the Norse, it was the prophecy that even gods must fall when the serpent rises.